La tradition feels so hard. Summer rhythms play. We're gonna thrive. Go, go, go. Oh, shout it out loud. Hear the summer sun. We're a summer loving crowd. Talking Brazil ball. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking Brazil Ball, the podcast all about Brazilian football. I'm James Brook, and I'm here, as always, to take a look at the latest goings-ons in the Brasileirão, in Brazilian football. I'm here with George as ever. George, it's been a couple of weeks since we've been on air, isn't it? We've been enjoying our birthday last week, and as a result, we've kind of missed two rounds, haven't we? But how are you doing? Did you have a good birthday?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, James. Come on, Vice, everybody listening, watching, I did. Thank you. Of course, last Thursday, and just, quite a relaxing one, really. Nothing, too strenuous, but it was enjoyable. And, we've, like you said, fighting two-hand, and we've missed a couple of rounds. I think it was last Saturday, so it's going on 2 weeks ago now, James. Yeah, since we last touched in with it. And I think today we're just going to run down, aren't we, the last couple of fixtures. No, it's not a normal episode, really. We'll run down the fixtures, any news, that sort of thing. But how are you? Did you have a good day last week?
Yeah, I did, thank you. Very, very good. Like you said, nice chiller one. I think we're past that kind of age where you're going out and getting bladdered and that kind of thing. So nice kind of relaxing one. All the better, I think. But yeah, as you said, George, we're going to go look at two rounds, but just very briefly run down the fixtures, have a quick look at what's kind of the situation after those, and then look ahead to match day 21 it is now. So why don't you let us know, George, run down that match day 19. So it's the midway point already of the Brasileirão season for many teams. A few, of course, have played a little bit less, but some really, really interesting results in this one.
Absolutely, James. It'd be a pleasure of mine. So it did start on Saturday, the 9th of August, like I said, round 19, James. Flamengo 2, Mirassol 1, RB Bragantino 1, Inter 3, Sao Paulo 2, Vitória 0. Sunday, August the 10th, Fortaleza 0, Fogo 5, Bahia 3, Flu 3, Palmeiras 2, Ceará 1, Vasco 1, Galo 1, Cruzeiro 1, Santos 2. Into Monday, the 11th, then, James. Grêmio 0, Sport 1. Sport are on a good bit of form, James. Into Tuesday, then, 12th of August, Juventude 2, Corinthians 1. Round 20, then, starting on Saturday, the 16th of August, Ceará 1, RB Bragantino 0, Fluminense 2, Fortaleza 1, Sport 2, Sao Paulo 2, Vitória 2, Juventude 2. Sunday, 17th of August, Corinthians 1, Bahia 2, Galo 1, Grêmio 3, Santos 0, Vasco 6. A big win for Vasco, James. Inter 1, Flamengo 3. Into Monday the 18th, then, Fogo 0, Palmeiras 1. And the match day ended, James, on Tuesday the 19th with Mirassol 1, Cruzeiro 1. I think it was, James, a repeat. Like you said, a lot of them are in halfway mode. I think it was a repeat of the opening day fixtures, actually.
Yeah, that would make sense, certainly for the ones who played 20 anyway. But yeah, some really, really fascinating results in there. As you said, George, Sport getting their first win finally after the 17th game of the season. And they've been on a really, really nice little run of form, as you mentioned there, a draw again. And they were actually leading that game 2-0 against Sao Paulo. As we saw a few weeks ago, they've had 3 of their last 5 games have ended 2-2, which is a bit mad, really. But they haven't been beaten since the end of July now. So that's, 5 games unbeaten, 1 win. So they'd like to win a few more, but they've turned a bit of a corner, possibly. I mean, the unfortunate thing is that they are still rooted to the bottom of the table. 10 points isn't really, they're not going to stay up. We kind of know that already, but they've certainly been showing a bit more, as have Juventude. So we're going to look at the relegation picture in a little bit and just touch on those two teams a bit more. But let's turn our attention, George, to the top of the table because, we did. I mean, I can't remember exactly the state of play last time we spoke, but Cruzeiro was certainly closer to the top than they are now. A couple of poor results for them. They lost at home to Santos and then drew with Mirassol, and that leaves them 5 points behind Flamengo with having played a game more. Palmeiras are wedged in between the two teams. It's starting to look like a straight shootout again, isn't it? Well, again, I say it's not again, but it's looking like a straight shootout between Flamengo and Palmeiras.
It definitely is, James, at this point. And I said, before the ball was kicked this season in the Brasileirão that Flamengo were going to win. I think a lot of people had tipped them to win, and I don't see that changing. 4 points ahead. I know they played a game in hand, a game more, than Palmeiras, but I don't see it changing. They're on good form as well, in the Cup as well, in the Libertadores, should I say. Absolutely took your team the cleaners over the last couple of results, James. The last three all won against Inter the next round of the Copa Libertadores as well, with a 3-0 aggregate win over Inter, and in between that beat them 3-1 in the league, and they're unbeaten now in I think it's six games since a cup loss to Galo. So they're doing well, James, and Felipe Luis has got them, in a really good space, and I think they've no doubt. But I think they will definitely win. Palmeiras always breathing down the neck, but I just don't see them having enough to win. To win the league. It was good to see Anderson scoring for Palmeiras, wasn't it, James? Against Botafogo, he doesn't seem to have featured a great deal, or definitely not been in the headlines. So it's another really good quality player that who hasn't really, shown his best so far. But they're creeping up the table, aren't they? Just ever so slightly. They're always there.
Yeah, they always seem to find a way to hang around in decent form themselves. Like you said, Felipe Anderson with the goal, a massive win away at Fogo, always feels good. I'm sure the champions, they were obviously pipped to the post by them last year, and that will have felt good, I'm sure. And they, coincidentally, Palmeiras are looking very likely to get into the quarterfinal of the Libertadores as well. They won 4-0 away at Universitario de Deportes. The second leg is this evening, actually, George, 11:30 as we record, so I'm sure they'll make it through. Flamengo, as you said, absolutely took into the cleaners, really, 3-0 on aggregate. Not a great kind of piece of form at the moment for Roger Mercado and his team, but Flamengo playing Estudiantes, Argentine side, in the quarterfinal. You'd probably make them favourites for that, and they've got a fairly clear run to the final. They'll be Racing Club, who obviously won the Sudamericana last year, and Vélez Sarsfield, another Argentine side, that would be in the quarters. So, in the semi, it's starting to open up for them, that. And Felipe Luis, I mean, like you said, there was a lot of people tipped them, I think, for the title, but still his first ever full year in senior management. What he's doing is really, really brilliant, you have to say. And they look fairly unstoppable at the moment. As you say, Palmeiras 4 points behind, 1 game in hand. So it's looking like, those are going to be the two teams. They don't meet for a little while, actually, not until the start of November. So it's fairly late in the season at the Maracanã that they meet. So that has the kind of look of a title decider already, really. Cruzeiro falling away a bit, Georgia. 5 points off the top of game played more. Do you see any way back for them now?
While they're in the mix, aren't they, James? But I don't think they're going to win the title here. I think they'll always be towards in the top 4. They might get Libertadores qualification, which is a good season, isn't it? Really, you've got to say. But as far as the title is concerned, I think it's probably a little bit of a stretch for them right now. They'll be really disappointed with 2 games against 2 promoted sides. They didn't win one of them. And they're going to be disappointed with that. It's a home game with Inter on Saturday. Is their next game. So again, probably a game they look to want to win then, and think that they will have the capacity to do so. But 5 points behind, 5 points behind the top, having played a game more, I would say potentially. And obviously Bahia breathing down the next. They've got 2 games in hand on them as well. So they've got to be careful, but I think they'll probably take top 4. But in answer to your question, I think it is probably, done and dusted for them in terms of the title, I would say.
Yeah, I would probably say so as well, which is a shame. We thought they might have a bit more legs about them, really, under Jardim. I saw some reports as well that Jardim is attracting interest again from the Middle East, some clubs over there. So that would be a shame if he went back over there. But I don't see why he would really after just half a season in Brazil, a fairly successful one. But who knows how these things go? If they end up losing him, it would be that would be curtains, you would imagine, for their chances. But they didn't look like they're going to get there anyway with him. But yeah, as you mentioned, Bahia's still going pretty well. Still very kind of unbeaten in a decent amount of time, aren't they? They seem very hard to beat again under Rogerio Ceni, so they're looking good for a top 4 space. Mirassol, we must mention, George, as well, still going well, up in 6th, which is pretty amazing. They did lose against Flamengo, but they didn't disgrace themselves. That was going to be my game of the week. They lost that 2-1. Ultimately, it wasn't a bad performance by all accounts, so they're still going well.
Yeah, Mirassol are, James. They're still doing it. That run of form did come to an end against Flamengo, but they did get a good result in the end against Cruzeiro. So they'll be back to full confidence, I'm sure, with that. And a game, a trip to Fortaleza to come. So on the weekend. So they'll be bang up for that. They'll back themselves now. They're doing enough in the Brazilian to get points, know how to do it clearly. So I'm sure they'll go up towards the top 6, 7 in the league, really. I mean, going back to Cruzeiro, just a bit of transfer news, of course, for them. They're looking at Sinisterra, aren't they, from Bournemouth, potentially getting him on loan. I know he's had his injury problems, but for me, that would be quite a coup, really, quite a impressive signing if they can get that one over the line, get him in for the remainder of the season or whatever it would be, because he, on his day, as I don't know only too well, James, he's a very exciting and talented player. So that would be extremely interesting to see how he would translate his skills to the Serie A.
Yeah, it didn't quite work out at Leeds, did it? And then he left for Bournemouth, hasn't really seemed to be able to get fit. But of course, a South American from Colombia, and perhaps he can add a bit more firepower, although they do have firepower on paper. I just wanted to mention Red Bull Bragantino quickly. I mean, 2 more losses for them, George, since we last spoke. 8 losses in a row in all competitions. The more or less where you might expect them to be, even though they had a poor year last year, sitting in 9th position. But Seabra is still there, but he's got to be nervous about his position now. They have to turn that around quickly, because you look at the relegation picture, they're 8 points ahead of the relegation zone, and that's nothing really with half a season left to play.
No, it's not, James. It's just not been good enough. 8 games in a row they've lost. It's crazy amount of matches, is that. And Seabra, I think he's riding off the glory of keeping them up last season, to be quite fair. I think if it was another manager, he might have gone by now. And they've got Fluminense, I think, a home game against Fluminense in the next round of fixtures. And you've got to say, when's enough at this point? And for me, if you're going I'd give him, if he hasn't won in the next couple, you've got to say, actually, enough's enough, because we're sliding down the table here. A few weeks ago, they were, 4th, 5th in the table. Now they're 9th. They're only going one way at this moment. It's back to where they were last season and scrapping for relegation. So something needs to happen. For me, they need to see a good result, at least a draw against Flu, on the weekend. If they don't, then I think conversations have to be had maybe we just need to change the manager here, because it's clearly not working, is it?
Yeah, maybe Jurgen Klopp will be involved in those kind of discussions.
Very true.
And maybe they'll get Jurgen, and he'd have a good go, wouldn't he? But they're only a couple of points off 5th at the end of the day. It's quite bunched up in that kind of 5th to kind of 12th, really. There's only 5 points in it. So, it's not a disaster, but if that's their bad run out the way, then, they'll still be all right. But, these bad runs can take on a life of their own, as it is doing a little bit. Flu have jumped ahead of them as well. So, they are sliding down a little bit. Well, let's turn our attention a bit to the bottom end then, George, those teams that are already sliding down. Let's talk about Santos, because they're not in the relegation zone. But as you mentioned there, they were in a decent run of form. They'd won 2 in a row, which lifted them above the relegation zone. They beat Cruzeiro at Cruzeiro, which was, a huge result in the context of where the 2 teams were. And then, George, they come up against Vasco and they get absolutely hammered 6-0 it spells the end for Kleber Xavier. And we're now reading that Juan Pablo Voivoda, who we're both kind of fans of, did a great job at Fortaleza last year, is set to join. So that looks like a good appointment initially. But yeah, it's going wrong a little bit, isn't it, at Santos? On the flip side, Vasco absolutely pumped them and they still couldn't get above them in the table. They sit in 16th. It's a comedy of errors. My boy Coutinho bagged 2. Ryan as well was a double scorer. So what was your reaction to that result?
Well, it was just like, wow, I remember you text me saying they're getting, they're not doing very well, to paraphrase it. And then, I had a look and I thought, wow, Vasco just don't seem to win anymore. And like you said, it slaps you in the face and says that they haven't even managed to get above them in the table and they smashed them 6-0. So it just, Philippe, Denise is just not being. It's just not. I don't know what's happened to him, but it's just not happening for him, is it? And obviously, like you said, it sparked the end for Xavier. And obviously, I'm excited to see how Voivoda, picks up and gets on with these players. Because, like I said, last time we were on, didn't I? I spoke about Santos. I said, he was managing the ego of Neymar quite well, but maybe Voivoda can get another tune out of him and another tune out of the other players because they've got a good squad there. Really, it just hasn't gone probably as planned, but they are still above the relegation zone. They are still just hovering above it, and you don't often get scores like 6-0, really, do you? I know Fogo beat Fortaleza 5-0 the week before, but it generally doesn't happen. You don't get these big scoring games, so when you do, it's a bit of a shock. Particularly for Vasco. Vasco didn't have Vighetti playing either. I think he was suspended. And to say he was a top scorer, he'd have been cursing his luck. He'd bagged a few, maybe they're on form, weren't they, Vasco, in that game? So, Ryan, if it was a normal week, James, I'm pretty sure we'd probably be, waxing lyrical about him on a, young player of the round award potentially. So he's, keeping his good form, and I'm sure a lot of clubs around Europe will have been alerted to the fact that he did get a couple of goals and that he is, looking likely to go the distance and have a good career as well.
He's having a good season, Ryan. He seems to have picked up well under Diniz. 4 goals and 1 assist. It's not mind-blowing numbers, but he is doing well. Like you said, Vighetti, one of the top scorers in the league, wasn't even in the team that day, and they still pumped them. So it did spell in for Kleber Xavier. Wasn't there very long, and Voivoda will come in. I'm sure they'll do better. Fortaleza, his old club, he's taken them down there in many respects, to be fair, didn't he? But they continue to do poorly, George. Like you said, they lost 5-0 against Fogo. They lost 2-1 against Fluminense in the most recent game. They sit second to bottom. But I wanted to talk about the 2 teams either side of them. So Juventude and Sport Recife. We condemned them last time we spoke. We said both of them are down. Like I said at the top there, it's probably true of Sport. But Juventude, they're only 1 point off safety at the moment. They're making a good fist of it, 3 unbeaten. The last result was a 2-0 win over Vasco, who didn't follow up that win. I don't know whether that was after. No, that was before the win, wasn't it?
No, it was after.
That was their last game. So they followed that. That's like you said about Diniz. They got smashed 6-0, and Neymar was in tears. Actually, I saw him leaving the pitch in tears, which was, I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed that. But yeah, Vasco, that's just a team they are. Smashed Santos 6-0, going into the back of another relegation 6-pointer away at Juve, and lost 2-0. So for Juve, have they turned a bit of a corner, do you think? Or do you think this is just a case of, they'll win a couple every now and again, but they'll still go down?
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit of a resurgence that we might think, maybe, but it's a bit of a false dawn potentially. 2-0 up within 16 minutes of this game. And you just think, Vasco just won 6-0. How are you losing now 2-0 to Juventude, who are off form? Although, like you said, they have started to build up a little bit of form. And, I think they will go down. But I think we said it before the season started, that Juventude will flirt with the relegation zone. I think we did say, actually, we thought at the time they might stay up. But I think it is, they might flirt, they might get out of it a little bit, and then they might go back into it. And ultimately, I think whether they do get out of it or not as the season progresses to its final stages, I don't think once 38 games have been played, I don't think they'll be above that line. I think they will eventually go down.
Well, I might just change your mind, actually, George, because just checking, they have changed the manager, and it's your mate, Tiago Carpini, who has come in at Juventus.
Right. So we did miss this, James.
He did.
Oh,
so he's
yes,
actually been there for 4 games, so he actually missed it last time. So, but
Oh,
he's won
gosh.
4 games. He's won 2 of them already.
So
drawn
that
one.
might obviously hark back to their their good form,
It
obviously,
does, yeah,
in
well,
the
it does.
last 4. So he's taken over against Santos, which they lost, and then the last 3 they've won 2 and drawn 1 with Vittoria. So that makes a lot of sense. In fact, no, I'm not sure. Who knows? But I think that Santos game, which I covered actually, might have been his first game in charge, possibly.
Yeah, well, we missed that, but anyway, maybe the form has turned a little bit then. And then Sport Recife, like we said, they're in. I mean, they're hard to beat, but they just can't win. I mean, they did get that win finally over the line. They will feel so much better about themselves for that, Daniel Paulista's team. And they couldn't quite follow it up with a win against Sao Paulo, which they probably should have done. You think if they win that, maybe then they go in a bit of a run, but that conceding the 2 goals probably pulls them back down to earth. And yeah, focus on the positives. Finally, the wins under the belt.
Yeah, well, the win under the belt. I mean, just going back to Juventude, James, Carpini actually went back to Vittoria, last weekend, and he got a 2-2 draw. They scored twice in the last 8 minutes of the game, 10 minutes of added on time, and Nene scored a penalty. So that must have felt kind of sweet for Carpini, who was swept aside by Vittoria fairly quickly this season, really. But yeah, I think Sport Recife finally got the W on the board. It will feel a lot better for them. They do need to stop conceding goals and giving away 2-goal leads. That doesn't really help. But the result against Sao Paulo in the end, you'd have taken a draw at the start of it, and they're getting onto a nice little run of form of 5 games unbeaten. Like we know, it's probably not going to save them. The 9 points still off safety. So, yeah, it's probably not going to be. It's too little, too late, maybe. But you don't know. I mean, the other teams are faltering above them as well. So 1 or 2 more wins, it could get a bit sticky for those above them. And they just got to keep going. They've had a poor season, but they can still salvage it by those results.
Yeah, they're going in the right way anyway. So let's see. They've got Palmeiras next. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a turn up if they beat them. But definitely, I mean, it's just nice to see them get a win because it has been a bit sorry seeing them at the bottom there every single time on the 0. But that's the state of things at the moment, George. I mean, there's plenty more to talk about, but, we could go on forever. And I think it's nice just to give it a quick kind of roundup, and we'll be back hopefully to normal next week. So why don't you just give us a rundown of the fixtures that are to come this weekend, and we'll pick our games of the week.
Absolutely, James. Now, I'm going on my laptop here, so just bear with me. But yes, so the 23rd of August it starts with RB Bragantino against Fluminense and Cruzeiro against Inter. 24th of August, James, 1 a.m. UK time, Grêmio face Ceará. Bahia then hosts Santos, 8 p.m. UK time. Also 8 p.m. UK time, Vasco hosts Corinthians. 10:30 UK time, Fortaleza hosts Mirassol. And Juventude hosts Fogo. Bank holiday Monday then, 25th of August, James. Sao Paulo hosts Galo at 12:30 midnight kickoff. And then into 11 p.m. Palmeiras in that game against Sport Recife. The game week ends match day 21 with Flamengo against Vitória in the early hours of Tuesday, the 26th of August.
Yep, some good ones in there. What are you going for?
You know what, James? I think looking at them, I was thinking about Juventude on form. You know, Fogo might be an interesting game. You know, I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with Bragantino against Fluminense, James, because obviously, like we mentioned, Braga have not won for a while. Fluminense have gone above them in the table. They're sort of teetering on the edge of, you know, continental qualification on a little run of form. You know, it might be a decent game to look at that one. So none of the rest of them really pull me in, to be fair. You know,
Yeah.
they're,
Yeah,
it's
they're
a
all a
bit,
bit kind of. None of them are really kind of teams around each other at kind of key areas, are they? So it's
no,
a little bit kind of. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think I'm going to go for Bahia Santos though, and kind of see whether Voivoda's in yet. And also, we don't seem to have looked at a lot at Bahia, even though they've been doing really well. So
yes.
I'm going to go for that one, I think. And yeah, let's, like I said, hopefully Voivoda may have been appointed by then. It's going to be his first game. It's a difficult one away in Bahia. So let's see how they do in that one. Right, George, nice little update from us there, I think.
Yeah.
All that's left to do is just have a rundown of what the table looks like after match day 20.
Absolutely, James. It would be a pleasure of mine to give everybody an update with that. So, just a minute. So, at the top of the table is Flamengo on 43 points. Second is Palmeiras on 39. Third, Cruzeiro on 38. Fourth is Bahia on 33. Fifth, Fogo on 29. Also on 29 in sixth is Mirassol. Seventh is Sao Paulo on 29 as well. Eighth is Fluminense on 27. Also on 27 in ninth is RB Bragantino. 25th points is 10th place Ceará. 11th is Galo, also on 24. 12th, also on 24, is Inter on 23 points. In 13th is Grêmio. 14th is Corinthians on 22. 15th is Santos on 21. 19 points, and in 16th place is Vasco, James, and into the relegation zone. Also on 19 points is Vitória. 18th is Juventude on 18. 19th is Fortaleza on 15. And 20th position, as always, James, but slightly better this time, Sport Recife on 10 points.
That's it. Sport still bottom, but looking a little bit healthier, and that's definitely like what we like to see. And wouldn't it be great if they could just turn up something, one of the results of the season this weekend and beat Palmeiras? It really would be great. I'm sure all the Flamengo fans are hoping for that as well. But yeah, we hopefully will be back next week. I'm sure we will be as normal with a proper episode. But we didn't want to leave it another one without checking in. So thank you everybody for listening. And yeah, it's going to be a good week, isn't it, George?
Yeah, it surely will be, James. Lots to look at. Lots to enjoy. Like you said, Palmeiras, will they get beaten by lowly Sport Recife and all the rest of it, James. It's all to play for. So, yeah, we look forward to it. But for now, we'll say adieus.
Adieus.
We're breaking it down, bringing the passion from every town. Let the world be